Studying karate is a complete waste of time if you want to learn how to fight. Okay, so this morning I'm on my Facebook and I'm looking through a conversation on a local community page where somebody's asked for recommendations for somewhere where their 5-year-old could learn some karate or some boxing. So a few comments on there, people recommending various dojo, you know, well-meaning, everyone quite good. In comes this guy, bang, bash, like a front kick to the face. You don't need karate, what you need is Muay Thai, what you need is BJJ. You need to be pressure testing this kid. Walking around in lines ain't gonna work, it ain't gonna cut it in the real world. Remember, we're talking about a 5-year-old here. Now, those of you who followed me for any length of time know that I'm a lot more involved in, should we say, the competitive fighting world these days than I am in the traditional martial arts. So a lot of my time these days is spent doing BJJ, MMA, Muay Thai, reality-based combatives, all this sort of stuff. I spend most of my time in that world. That said, I still believe for the majority of people, traditional martial arts are far more beneficial in the long term. So we'll go back to talking about our 5-year-old first of all. Now, most 5-year-olds need to learn, before they need to worry about protecting themselves in the real world or pressure testing anything they're studying in class, what they need to learn is how to line up, how to pay attention, how to focus, how to get on with other people, and how to coordinate their body to be able to follow simple instructions and move in a coherent manner. They probably don't need to be putting head guards and body shields on and going 5-minute rounds at full contact just to see if the stuff works. But let's take the 5-year-old out of it for a minute and let's talk about the average Joe off the street who wants to learn a little bit of self-defense, wants to improve their fitness, wants to improve their confidence, and wants something interesting to do to get them up off the sofa, get them moving, and bring some productivity and positivity to their lives. The majority of people who I coach are not professional fighters. They have no aspirations to get in the ring or get in the cage. They just want to learn a little bit of self-defense, a few little skills, a few little tricks, learn to hit fairly hard, learn to condition their body and be able to take a blow, but without knocking the crap out of each other and still being able to go work the next day. Now, of course, there does need to be realism. There does need to be an amount of pressure testing. We do need techniques that actually work in the real world. However, we can get these things through the process of traditional martial arts, trained in the right way. We don't have to always gravitate towards combat sports, which are sporting in nature. They do have a rule set applied, and that rule set will dictate that the stronger, faster, more athletic person will win more often than not. With the traditional martial arts, they comprise of certain tricks and skills and techniques that allow the average person to have a slight advantage over the average person. Now, we're not talking about traditional martial artists fighting against cage fighters or, you know, getting into a street fight with a Muay Thai champion. And that should not be happening. I don't know of one story where an MMA champion or a high-level Muay Thai athlete or BJJ athlete has gone around mugging people or robbing people in the street. So the likelihood of you encountering one in the street is minimal at best. So, good people of the internet, can we grow up a little bit and drop the whole argument of that wouldn't work in the cage? Yeah, we know, we ain't fighting in the cage. Combat sports are not for everybody. I'm now 44 years old. I'm in good condition, you know, I'm physically very fit, took care of myself my whole life, I'm pretty athletic, I'm pretty good at combat sports. That said, I am now towards the end of my usefulness in that realm. I'm always getting injured. I'm very slow now, my eyes don't work very well, I'm a little bit stupid, my brain don't work so well anymore, so my fight IQ is not what it was. It's time for me to call it a day. Now, does that mean martial arts are now no good for me? No, it does not. There's plenty I can still be doing. And the majority of people coming to martial arts are not coming at that high level. They require martial arts down here, something that is suited for them to take their first steps. Now, should they get further down that road and decide they want to compete or they want to go fight in the cage, well, yeah, now you go specialize. Now you go do MMA. Now you go do your BJJ and all this stuff. But there is martial arts for everybody at every stage of life. For example, when I get to 60 or 70 years old and my legs are no longer working like they once was, maybe I'll look at doing Iaido or some sort of seated sword art that I can still enjoy some movement, still get some practice in, you know, still be involved in the martial arts. I'm not excluded from that just because I'm no longer young and athletic. But at the end of the day, we need to stop competing with each other all the time. You know, we're all trying to sing from the same song sheet, I hope at least, right? And that we're trying to give people some sort of beneficial practice that will enhance their life. They've come to us for a reason. So by shitting on each other and saying, oh, that's no good because they're all nut huggers in the MMA world, you know, they're all on steroids and they're all gonna eat your face or whatever. Equally, by saying traditional martial arts, well, none of that works, that stuff's for kids, all you're going to do is walk up and down in a line. These opinions of each other, you know, it's crazy, and all we're doing is harming the potential student who is now so confused that they decide to do nothing. We need to have the confidence and the honesty in what we teach and what we preach so that we can advise the student accordingly. If they come and they want to go down the competitive realm, well, maybe we advise somewhere else and we swallow not getting their money, okay? We can do that. We can do what's best for the student for once, okay? If the person comes to the MMA class and they're overwhelmed and they're completely bewildered by what's going on, well, maybe that road's not for them, right? So maybe we steer them towards a more traditional art, which might be a little bit more nurturing for them and build their confidence to a level whereby maybe then they revisit that original idea. But there is enough space for everybody, and we need to be encouraging of all people and able as instructors and teachers and coaches to direct the student along the path that seems most appropriate for them at that time. At the heart of it all comes down to what's best for that particular individual and that student. And we need to remove our own egos and our own prejudices. I can't say the word, but you know what I mean. We need to remove that in order to do what's best for the student. Direct them on the right path, do the right thing, and stop shitting on each other. We're better than that, martial artists.